What's going on, guys? MariK here, and today we're back with another Halo video. Continuing from where we left off, ranking the campaigns to each of the various Halo games. The last one we did was Halo ODST, and we got pretty good results as well. This time we're going for another of the more controversial titles in the Halo franchise, Halo Reach. I know a lot of people had issues with the mechanic changes, but even with that, I still feel like Halo Reach has one of the most solid and replayable campaigns. Not just because you can change your armor up and see yourself in the actual cutscenes, but because the campaign itself is actually really fun. Now, starting off with the first level, Winter Contingency, it's a slow burn as far as the fun. Now, with Winter Contingency, it's similar to the other first levels where you're learning how to play the game, you're learning the differences between the current game and the older titles. But Winter Contingency kind of gives me like Sierra 117 vibes from Halo 3. It's going to go in B tier. It's a very, very slow build up, and I understand why. But the premise is just kind of eh. And because of that, it has some good moments, but it takes a minute to get there. The beginning is just kind of really boring. It's a lot of running around. And if you don't go on ahead, the AI will take forever, and that's what makes the first level such a slow crawl. Whereas if you run ahead, they'll follow you, and you kind of skip a lot of the stuff that you don't need to see on every playthrough. The first time, sure, because it's a brand new game, but otherwise, that shit's just irritating. The way the battles are broken up in the first level, they're just not as exciting as they could be. You get the stupid little truck, you can get George on the back of it, and it's like having a Warthog chain gun, but not really. The most fun part is the end, where you've kind of got to wait for a cat to get the damn door closed, and that takes her forever to find the fucking button to close the door. And then you got the inner part, which is, it's just, the ending is much more actiony, and it's much more fun. It's more Halo than the rest of the level, so it's kind of going to get B tier. Then up next we have Oni Sword Base. This is a really fun level, and I feel like it's got a lot of replay value to it. I'm going to put this one up in A tier. You get to do so much different stuff with this. The battle at the beginning, like as soon as you start the level, you're in a fucking firefight. There's jackals, there's grunts, there's elites, there's all kinds of shit going on as soon as you start. There's no slow burn, there's no build up, it's just we're throwing you into the action. They may as well have just dropped you on the heads of the Covenant. Then after that, you got some Warthog action. You can get a Ghost. You can get the new Revenant, which is kind of like the illegitimate child of a Ghost and a Wraith. It has the speed and maneuverability of a Ghost, with a kind of like half the power of a Wraith. It's not great on higher difficulties compared to a Wraith tank, but it can get the job done. Move on a little bit further, and you get a Goshawk, which is just fantastic and shreds things like nobody's business. I love me some Goshawk action. The cool thing, too, is you can kind of play the level however you want to. You get the option to go and get the comms online or get the turrets online. You get to pick which one. You're going to do both either way, and it's going to lead you in a giant loop that will bring you back to Sword Base. But it is kind of cool that it gives you the illusion that you can go do whichever one first. Then once you loop back around to Sword Base, there's more enemies. You'll take them out, and you'll go back into the courtyard. But now this time you've got to actually get in Sword Base. And there's some hunters, there's some elites. You'll go up the elevator to the Office of Naval Intelligence. The room is super cramped, and I don't like fighting in it, but once you get out of there and you're in the actual Sword Base, in the main part of the structure, there's enemies shooting down from different levels. You can take different ways to go around, and you'll work your way up to the top, kind of just going around the edge of the map until you get to the top. And then once you take out the elites up there, you go outside, and there's a Phantom. There's Banshees. There's Invisible elites. There's Rocket. It's a good level that comes off the back of a very mediocre, slow start. Then we got the third level, Nightfall, and you guys know I love me some sniping. I love sniping levels. This one, I don't love as much. It doesn't have the same feel that Truth and Reconciliation has, especially because it's just all on the ground. and there's no ship to go into, and so it loses a lot of what kind of makes Truth and Reconciliation what it is. So it's going to go in B tier. It's still a fun level. I still like sniping. June is a horrible, horrible AI companion. He'll miss half his shots, and the ones he doesn't will hit you instead of the enemy. You can play it stealthy somewhat, but as soon as you start shooting, the stealth factor is just gone. And so it's just a snipey fight between you and the other elites and stuff, and the grunts are just fodder for the most part. And this level is just kind of run around, but you can skip so much of this level. Similar to how you can skip in the first level, you can just kind of go from the first encounter, you can skip the elites, you can drive straight to the end where the dropship is attacking the civilians, and then go to the end of the level. This one, you can kind of do the same thing and just skip all the way to the end, but unless you do the trick that pushes you through the gate at the very end, which also despawns the enemies. If you don't end up doing that trick, you will have to stay and fight the Covenant there, which is okay. Again, it's just Covenant. They're not really that big a deal. Once the hunters drop in, then you're kind of left realizing that a sniper and a pistol really isn't doing much against hunters, so you're going to have grenades. Or what I like to do is grab the turrets before the hunters drop. They make pretty decent work of the hunters, even on lasso difficulty. So, and then once you get to the end, it's just a lot of things trying to shoot at you, and you just shoot enough of them to get to the end. You can kind of thin them out and then just make a mad dash to the end, but because there are so many things that will be chasing you and shooting you, it's not really ideal. And unless you're playing on lasso difficulty, even in legendary, it's easy enough to just kill them one by one and just walk through to the end. Not a bad level. It explains, kind of how the invasion starts, but it also is so jarringly different story-wise than what we're used to with the Fall of Reach book. Then up next, we got Tip of the Spear. This is one of the ones I really enjoy playing. There's a lot of Warthog action that goes on in this one, and of course a lot of boots on the ground battles as well. This one's going to go in A tier. Just the vehicular play just makes it so much better. This one you get the missile pod Warthog, which I don't particularly like. I mean, you get the AI in the turret. The rockets will kind of home in, but it's nowhere near as good as the Goshawk. I don't even know if it's as good as the regular Warthog. Sure, if you're up close enough to hit the targets, but the rockets are so slow, and a lot of times they'll just dodge them. So it's just Destroying the big guns on this map are a lot easier once you learn that you can just shoot them from the outside and you don't have to go on the inside. And that's kind of where the rocket Warthog is better than the regular Warthog or the Goshawk. I would think, in theory, just shooting a bunch of rockets at the outside of the AA guns. It's not bad. But either way, you can take them out from the outside, and you can pretty much do that part without really much interference from the enemy. So you can just drive around, blow it up, drive around and move on to the next area. And you'll pretty much drive all the way around until you have to get out, although technically you don't have to get out when the game says, hey, this is where the ride's over, and you go, no, it's not. You can actually drive the Warthog up the steps and drive it all the way around. You can take it all the way through, even out to the part where there's a bunch of Revenants, and you're more or less, there's Revenants and Ghosts, and it's implied that that's the vehicle you're supposed to take. Clearly, you don't have to. You can just keep your Warthog, and then you'll get to the other AA gun. Again, you can take it out from the outside. It's definitely better to take this one out from the outside because you get too close to it and then a bunch of drones will spawn. And honestly, if you don't get close to it, they'll never spawn. I don't know if it technically will kill them when the turret explodes because I don't know if they're spawned at that point. But they definitely won't come out and bother you, that's for sure. You got your little Hornet ride, Falcon ride all the way to the Spire, and then of course you crash. The ending is kind of It's my least favorite part of the level. They take your shit. You're left like an assault rifle, and you're like, oh, great. Oh, you get a jetpack. That's cool. And on the jetpack, just kind of, if you want to, you can just skip and fly up to the end. You do have to kill everything at the top. It'll be 3 elites, couple grunts, and an engineer, but that's it. You can just kind of skip that whole end section, and then But it's my least favorite part of that level, but otherwise, really good, solid level. Then next, we got Long Night of Solace, and I have mixed feelings about this level. The intro is really cool. You got some really badass music going on, and then you get to more or less the countdown level from the multiplayer, and there'll be a couple enemies in there you'll fight, and then you'll just get in the saber and you'll fly up to space. You'll do the space things. I don't like the space things. It's just I don't feel like I have enough control over my vehicle. But then the end section is great. I love the skirmishes on the little Corvette. It's really fun. There's some tight quarters. There's some little bit of ranged action going on. I'd say this one's a high B. It could possibly be like an A minus. But the saber bits, while they are cool and initially they're fun, it's not something I like to replay over and over again. I would much rather play a level where I'm driving a Warthog or even a Scorpion, but definitely a Warthog. That's just the most fun vehicle to play in all of Halo. Then up next, we've got the level Exodus, and this is the first one where we actually have brutes. This level, I'm just not a fan of. There's a lot of stuff going on. Sure, you get like the bullfrog part where you get the, use the jetpack and you jump over the death traps with some ODSTs, which is cool. A lot of the stuff is really samey, and while not necessarily a bad thing, it's not samey in the way that I like. There's a lot of, you've got the low ground, you've got to get the high ground kind of thing. The end battle is really cool again, but it's just not as good. I think this is a solid B. I don't dislike it, so it's not a C. I think Long Night of Solace has to be bumped up to an A. It is an A minus. It's not as good as Oni Sword Base or Tip of the Spear, but it is definitely a good level to play. So I'm not, I think it's all right. I think it's good right there. Then we got New Alexandria, and this one's an easy B for me. Again, there's some small parts here and there, but like, there's just not a whole lot going on. So if you when you get the club mission, you just go in, there's a couple enemies, you blow the thing up, and that's kind of it with that one. Then you've got the other one where you've got to make your way outside all the way up to the stairs to get the lift. And that one's cool because it does take you up to Reflection, the multiplayer map, which is basically Halo Reach's glorified version of Ivory Tower. But there's not really a lot that goes on up there, and you just fight some drones, and that's it. So it's just kind of more like some fan service, I guess. The hospital is the biggest one because you've got to go in the hospital, you've got to go all the way winding down, and then you've got that whole hallway structure afterwards, shut that one down. That's the biggest one. But a lot of it is just flying around, just shooting simple little turrets and stuff. It's not the worst. It's not the best. You get some cool side missions. There's, of course, there's the one with Buck, and it's like, oh, well, this is how he escaped from Reach. Well, kind of, sort of. We just dropped him off on a tower in the middle of nowhere in the city that's about to be glassed. So we still don't know nothing. It's just, again, a kind of nice little fan service kind of thing. It's not a bad level, but I definitely don't think it's worthy of being higher than a B tier. Then we got the level The Package. The level where we are going back to Sword Base, to quote-unquote demolition op, or whatever the hell they say. And basically you're going to blow it up, except you're not. It's totally a ruse, but it's cool, because it's the tank level. Everybody loves the tank level. Everybody loves to destroy stuff in the tank. I don't necessarily know if I like it better than other tank levels in the game. I do love this level as a whole, but as far as the tank portion, debatable. It is cool that you can see how the battle on the planet and how everything has warped it to where this used to be an area that there's a bunch of ice and glaciers and stuff, and now a bunch of it's melting. You're like, hey, I recognize this area. It's underwater. Oh, this used to be a cliff. Now it's a fucking ocean. That's really cool to notice, and again, I don't know if I count that as fan service, but it is definitely something that if you're paying attention, you'll recognize how cool it is, but if not, then it's just another background feature. This definitely has to be our first S rank. It's such a fun level to go through. You got the tank portion, as I said, which is just really fucking fun. Then you get back to Sword Base. You get to go through Sword Base again, sort of, but then you take a different path. That one room, especially on Lasso, all the invisible elites, then you got the fucking general at the top of the ramp, you got the engineer in the back. That can get really, really difficult. But it's fun difficult. Just don't break your controller over it. The part at the end is really fun. It's almost firefight-esque because you're just defending an area and just killing and killing and killing. Although you don't really have to defend. I mean, you have 3 AI that are there, quote unquote, defending it. But it's not like there's anything. It's not like if you walk away, anything's gonna happen. They can't die. There's nothing that can get destroyed that would cause the mission to fail. So you can really just do whatever you want. There's plenty of targets. There's ghosts. You can steal a wraith. There's so much going on. There's little Easter eggs with that level too. It is easily one of my favorite levels, and probably my second favorite level overall in this game. Then we got the Pillar of Autumn. This time we're not fighting on it as it's crashing to the surface of an alien ring world. This time we're just racing to get to it to drop off little Cortana, to get to Sleeping Master Chief. This is a really fun one. The opening cutscene to this level is really fucking cool. Everything about this level is just great. There's so much stuff going on. There's no vehicle gameplay per se. You do get the mongoose, and you'll do kind of like a... It's not really like the Warthog runs, because it's not the end of the game. There's no sense of urgency aside from just, completing the storyline. And there are a couple scarabs you'll drive around and swerve, but they're just shooting at you with the little turrets, not the big guns. So, I mean, it's fun, but it's very short, and it's not. I don't really count it as a vehicle section, because that would basically require vehicle versus vehicle action and guns, and the mongoose does not have that. So, a lot of stuff going on in the next section. A lot of brutes. You got a wraith. You get more skirmishers. You get more drones. You get out to the Boneyard multiplayer level, and there's all kinds of shit happening there. I did not mean to click off that. That's not going in C tier. It's going in S tier. There's all the different elite variants that you have to fight against. Then there's ghosts, and you can kind of skip some of that stuff. If you can get to the center of that area, you can actually take some beams and stuff and go all the way across, drop down into the building, and just kind of skip that part if you want to. And some people do that with Lasso and other like speed runs, because there's so many enemies in the area. But it's a lot of fun to fight. But there's nothing for you to really do against the vehicles that are out there besides Spartan lasers. So sadly, no in-game vehicle fun, but fun nonetheless. When you get to the end, it's very similar to the package, where there's just this area that you're supposed to hold out at until Captain Keyes and his Pelican arrive. And in the meantime, you're just fighting off waves and waves and waves and waves that will eventually get harder and harder and harder. And you get to fight against a bunch of the Zealots, which are supposed to be the best of the best, and we don't really see much of them in the story. And then you get the little Mac gun thing at the end, which is more or less a minigame, but you do have to do it right. It's not hard to do it right, but if you do it wrong, you'll go to the last checkpoint, and then you'll have to do it again the right way, and then you'll send off Keyes. He'll get on the Pillar of Autumn. You get the little Easter egg with Master Chief asleep in the cryopod, while the rest of us are doing all the hard work. And that's more or less the end of the game, as far as what actually matters. Now, we do have Lone Wolf, which I feel like just for the sake of it, I kind of want to put it in S tier. I guess I'm going to drop it to... It's a high A. It's like A+. This is a really, really good epilogue. Not only because you actually get to play it and you get to see how the story ends, you get to see what happens to conclude Noble Six's story. But it's really cool because you get to fight that story. And you can fight it for a good while. I haven't done it on Legendary, but I believe I did it on Heroic. And I was probably like an hour and a half in, maybe. just going back and forth and killing elites, killing grunts, plasma pistol, sword, and just assassinating. It was a lot of fun, and you can do that, but it's just for the sake of it. Again, it's just like doing a firefight. There's no point. There's no end game. It basically ends when you decide you've had enough. Alright, so that's going to be it for our rankings of the campaign levels for Halo Reach. I'm sure somebody's going to be upset about one of them because they really liked something, and that's fine. I don't intentionally give my opinions with the thought process of what's going to piss people off the most. I just try to be as honest about it from specific standpoints that make a good Halo level. And for some people, that's different than others. Like, I love vehicle battles. I love driving the Warthog especially, so that automatically makes a level better for me. But some of it just isn't as fun, and, you know, that's okay if you enjoy that. If you enjoy flying the Falcon around, that's great. It's not that it's not fun. I just feel like I'm not doing enough. Same thing with the Saber in Long Night of Solace. I'm doing stuff, but it doesn't feel like I'm doing stuff. And it's hard to explain that compared to like driving a Warthog, but it's just such a different sensation. So, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know if your favorite levels were done justice. Let me know where I've wronged them, and perhaps we'll have a civil conversation about it.